Okay, here we're asked to graph one period of the following functions. Tells us some hints of things that we might want when we're graphing them. Honestly, there's no graphs on this piece of paper here, but it honestly makes it a little bit easier because then you can just kind of create a graph that makes the most sense to you. So, for example, here, when I'm going through and I'm drawing this, instead of making an XY axis that's, perfectly like the origins in the middle, they may not fit our graph very well. So I'm actually going to find out some information first and then kind of create the graph from there. So first of all, I always start with the midline. Personally, I see that the midline is at the y value of 2, and then I use the amplitude to tell me that the maximum is going to be 2 units above that, and the minimum is going to be 2 units below that. And so that kind of helps me create a better looking graph here that now I'm going to go ahead and just use kind of that first quadrant for the most part, because I know that the midline will be at, we'll call this 2, and our maximum at 4, minimum at 0. So we got that. We got the amplitude, the maximum, the minimum. Now we just got to deal with the period. The period here is determined by the b value. So we do 2 pi divided by the b value, which we're going to multiply by the reciprocal here. And we see that we're going to get these cancel. 3 pi is our period. So our period is 3 pi, meaning we are going to travel 3 pi units, and then that equation is going to, or that function is going to start to repeat. Last two things I need to know. First of all, let's look back at my equation. Let's clean this up a little bit. It is a positive cosine function, meaning I know that the general shape is going to start at the top and end at the top. And then again, if we were asked to do more periods, we would just do another cycle in our graph. But for this one here, we're just going to have something that looks like this because we are dealing with a positive cosine graph. Now, the h value here tells us where we're actually going to start. So instead of starting at my x value of 0, I'm going to start at my x value of pi over 4. And so that first point is going to be at the top. Now remember, my period is 3 pi, which means that this distance here has to be 3 pi. And I'm going to go down, hit the bottom, back to the top, and here. So that's the general shape. And now I just want to make sure I have the correct x and y values for these. So pi over 4, I need to do pi over 4 plus 3 pi, which is the same thing as pi over 4 plus 12 pi over 4. So this is telling us this x value here is 13 pi over 4. And in this case here, 12 pi over 4 is my period, right? And then each of these points is going to be they're going to be equal distances from each other. And so what I mean by that is that the first point here is at pi over 4, the last is 13 pi over 4. The one at the very bottom here is going to be halfway between that. So really we're going to be adding 6 pi over 4 to get this in-between point. And then again, the point that's halfway between pi over 4 and 7 pi over 4, I'm just adding 3 pi over 4. So this is 4 pi over 4, or we'll just call this pi. And then another 3 pi over 4, that's 10 pi over 4. And so what you notice is that each of these points where we hit the maximum, midline, and minimum are all 3 pi over 4 away from each other. So now we have all of our x values, we have all of our y values, and there is our graph.